Welcome to the Smart Property Investment Show with your host, Phil Tarrant.
Well, good day, everyone. Thanks for joining us on the show today in the studio. It's Katy Koo, first-time podcaster. Not too nervous. I think there's a little bit of hesitation. There's a smile there that says we're getting ready to have a good chat around property. Katy's come in to have a chat about her portfolio, her journey investing in property, and how and why she's doing it. Katy, welcome. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Phil.
So, how long have you been investing for?
Well, I first got into property around 18 years old.
Okay. So
That's
you're not
when
that old now, so I'm not going to call you age because I think it's rude for a man to talk about age. But how long ago was that? Oh, it's going to say your age, but anyway, a couple of years ago.
More than 10 years ago.
No. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So when did you start investing?
About 18, yeah.
Okay. Wow.
And I accidentally fell into investing. It's not because I went into investing property.
Okay. You deliberately didn't want to become a property investor. You're an accidental investor.
That's right.
Okay. So fast forward 10 years. How many properties in your portfolio now?
5.
Okay. So you've bought, a property pretty much every couple of years, keep growing. So let's have a chat about that. So how did you fall into property?
Well, first time when I bought my first property, I was actually just waiting around for my mum.
Okay.
And a real estate agent was actually opening up a house or an apartment for an inspection. And at that time, it was actually raining, so I thought I'd find some cover. And then I thought I'll just go inspect that property, and then it turned out that property was really what I wanted. I was 18. I wanted to move out of home just to get more freedom. And that's when I started investigating what a mortgage was, what property is about. Yeah.
That's cool. And you bought that place?
Yes.
You did?
I bought the place.
Whereabouts was it?
That was in Hurstville.
Okay. Hurstville, which is sort of South Sydney, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Hurstville's, what's it, about 10 kilometres from the city CBD?
It's about 13.
13 k's. So it's not too far away. That's cool. What were you doing at the time? Were you working?
No, I was studying. I was going to uni.
All right.
But my main aim was basically to get out of home because I was quite confined under my parents' guidance all the time.
And how did you sort of raise a deposit? How much did you pay for the property?
200,000.
200,000. So it was a
back then
2-bedroom unit, was it?
Yeah, 2-bedroom unit with a lock-up garage.
Oh, wow. I'm sure that's a pretty good. You still got that property today?
Yes, I do.
I bet you it's doing really well. How much is it? What's the valuation of that now?
Probably about $670 right now.
Okay, great, cool. So you lived in that then when you first purchased it?
Yes.
Okay, and how did you raise a deposit to secure the property?
It was pretty much all my life savings.
Okay, so you saved like all your money to buy at 18 your first property?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, did you work like part-time jobs and that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I worked for my parents because they were restaurateurs.
Okay.
And they just paid me cash as pocket
money.
money.
Pocket money,
That's
yeah.
right.
That's
and then
cool.
just saved here like bits and pieces, and then eventually gathered that deposit and put it on the property.
Wow. And what did your parents think when you said, "I'm buying a property, I'm moving out"? Were they okay with it?
They were questioning why you want to move out of home in the first place.
Yeah.
And they go, "Do you even know what you're getting into?" And being like my parents, they're quite strict, and they think that they should raise me until like a very old age, like later, like the age
30s,
I'm
you're allowed to leave home,
probably
aren't
30,
you?
40, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that just their particular way, or is it a cultural thing, or it's just is what it is?
Some people might call it cultural.
Yeah.
I think it's just a personality thing.
That's cool. That's pretty ambitious to do at 18 to go and commit to that. And what were you studying at university? What did you study at university?
Economics.
Okay. And did you finish your degree and go get a job that pays a lot more money? And
Yes, I had to finish my degree because of my mum told me to. Then I went and got a job at the bank.
Okay.
And I still continued to invest thereafter. So because I found the opportunities it presented in terms of income and growth.
Yeah, that's good. And did you have a flatmate when you bought your house? Did you get somebody to help you cover the rent, or you lived by yourself?
No, I lived with my partner at that time.
Okay, cool. That's
Yeah.
good. So you got a job at a bank. You're still at the bank? Still work at the bank now?
Yes.
Okay. What sort of stuff do you do at the bank?
I'm a financial advisor.
Okay. Well, there you go. So you know what's going on there. So how did you go from one property to 5 properties? What's the story there?
So from the first property, I renovated a bit and I was on a very tight budget. It was basically $500
Okay.
that
To renovate.
That's right.
Okay.
It didn't really have much to be renovated for because the previous owners had done most of it. We just did like a paint job and I learned tiling.
Okay.
So I did a TAFE course to do painting, and then I learned how to tile and grout from my ex-partner's dad.
Yeah, okay.
So all that with $500. To me back then was quite a lot of money, considering that I spent all my life savings on that deposit.
Yeah, that's crazy. So you did the reno yourself, which is cool. So put sweat equity into it rather than paying someone else to do the work. You just had to buy the materials, which is
exactly.
which is cool. So and then what did you get it revalued at that point in time? Did you?
And then at that time, I think Hurstville has boomed, or was going through a boom at that time, where a lot of people were buying up apartments and renovating, doing the same sort of thing I was doing.
Yeah.
So revalued it and then cashed out the equity.
Okay. And then where did you buy after that then, after Hurstville?
Across the road.
Oh, really? Another Hurstville property? Another two-bedder?
Another two-bedder. It was exactly across the road because I just saw like an agent put out a sign, so I was just curious as to what the apartment was like. And I just bought it because it was a similar sort of price.
Yeah. So how much you pay? Like 200 and something for
It's
it?
about $280.
280. Okay. And how long after the first property did you buy the second property?
A few years later, we bought a house. So I bought this joint with my brother
Okay.
in Riverwood.
In Riverwood, yeah. How much you pay for that, for the house?
Back then, it was just after the GFC,
Okay.
so it's about 500 or so thousand.
Okay. Is that 3-bed or 4-bedder?
It's actually a 5-bedroom house.
5-bedroom. New or an older one? Sort of?
It's red brick.
Okay,
Yeah,
red brick place. Okay, so sort of 70s sort of time.
that's right.
And after Riverwood, where did you buy?
We bought in Balcombe Hills.
Okay, Balcombe Hills, which is sort of near Castle Hill, sort of northwest Sydney, which I imagine, when did you buy that in Balcombe Hills?
I think 3 years ago.
Okay, and I imagine you've done quite well there. Where did you buy another house in Balcombe Hills?
It was a townhouse.
A townhouse?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's about 700,000 that we bought it for.
You pay 700. Wow. Okay. And the last purchase
That's where I'm currently living, so
Okay.
in Wentworth Point.
in Wentworth Point.
We bought that pretty much at the same time.
Where's Wentworth Point?
It's opposite roads.
Oh, okay, I know. So that new, well, it's not really new anymore. That
Lots of
development on the
development,
water.
that's right.
Yeah, near the bridge.
Yes, Bennelong Bridge.
Bennelong Bridge. Okay. How do you find living there? Is it? I look at it and just think there's a lot of apartments there. Is it quite a big community? Is it pretty cool?
It's definitely a lot of apartments. There's a lot of property development going on at the moment.
Yeah.
But I think the infrastructure is quite supportive. They've recently reintroduced the free shuttle bus.
Okay.
That takes all the passengers to Road Station
Okay.
and to Road Shopping Centre.
That's cool.
So it's quite convenient that way, and then you can just catch a train straight to the city.
And do you work in the city?
Yes.
Can you take the ferry into town? Is there a ferry
We
from
used
there?
to take the ferry
Yeah.
in the town, and that was actually quite nice, the ride. It wasn't too long. It's about 40 minutes max.
Yeah, it's a nice way to travel to work there.
Yeah.
But, at least you're right near IKEA. I've done some trips out there to buy some soft furnishings, and there's only a handful of IKEAs in Sydney. And
Yeah,
the
that's
fact
right.
that there is an IKEA there pretty much says there's quite a lot of development going on and people buying stuff from there. So
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool. So, are you happy with your portfolio? Is it something that you think is performing well, or is there bits of it that aren't performing as well as what they could do?
I think I'm quite happy with it because it's actually it's actually risen in terms of growth from all the recent developments. And it's not like I bought after the developments happened. I
Yeah.
bought just before the developments happened.
Okay. And you're a financial advisor, so we talk money. What's the total value of your portfolio, including your principal place of residence where you're living right now?
It's probably about 4.8 million,
4.8. And how much debt are you holding on that?
1 million.
Okay. How have you got $4.8 million in value and $1 million in debt? That's a pretty good LVR position you're sitting in. Are you putting P&I for everything you're paying down the debt on these properties, or are you just not refinancing them? How have you managed that?
Well, I had to refinance some of the loans because the rates were a bit high. So
Okay.
I tried to do that as when I see the market goes up, so I can cash in on the equity.
Okay.
But for the principal place residence, that's definitely on P&I, and I try to pay more than the contracted repayments.
Okay. So you look to pay down the principal component to try and
That's right.
minimise your deficit. So you got $4.8 million in valuation and $1 million in debt. That's pretty attractive for most investors. Is that correct? Yeah?
Yeah, it depends on what your purpose is, right?
Yeah. So what is your purpose? What's your goal?
Just to have a sustainable property portfolio. I think that's the most important. I think these days some people quite get into property and then they build up so much debt.
Yeah.
They don't know how to reduce it as fast as they want.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, I speak to a lot of investors, and your LVR position, your loan to value ratio, is probably one of the most conservative I've seen. Someone that's quite young and it gives you lots of capacity to keep growing your portfolio, or is that it now? You're happy just to stop and you don't need to purchase anything more?
I think I'm on the lookout at the moment, and considering there's tighter lending restrictions and regulations, I think I might just sit out for a bit until we see how the rates are.
Okay. And you said you're a financial advisor. That's what you do for a living with a major bank, is it? You don't name
Yes.
which one, but okay. So are you mainly advising around property, or do you look at all asset classes for your clients?
We don't actually give advice on property.
Okay.
Not as in which property to pick.
Yeah.
It's basically strategies around your financial position. So we can't give advice on picking property.
Yeah. So not particular property, but you would talk about property as an asset class.
That's right.
Something
Yeah, part of the asset
Yeah,
allocation.
and that's a really good point for our listeners. You need to be careful where you get your property advice from, because a lot of people aren't really in a position where they can offer financial advice legally. Property investment advice legally to you. So it's a really good point. How do you? So what sort of clients do you have? Is it sort of high net worth individuals, or are they just standard mum and dad type? People looking to create wealth. Is that what's your client base like?
It is like mums and dads, but it's also business owners.
Okay.
And executives.
Okay, that's cool. And what's their attitude normally towards property versus, say, a strategy which looks to maximise their superannuation, or it's investing in equities or other asset classes? Where does property normally sit in people's sort of mindset, do you think?
They're definitely more skewed towards property, I must say, from my sort of experience.
Yeah.
But as an advisor, we generally have to put on the best interest hat for the client.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that means going through the whole portfolio, not just property if they just suddenly talk about property.
Yeah.
And that means if, as much as them wanting to build wealth, we want to make sure that they protect that wealth as well, and enabling themselves to be able to be comfortable in that position, stay in that position.
Yeah. And what's your view towards asset selection, asset allocation, how you're going about creating your own personal wealth? Are you primarily in property? Do you have a diversified portfolio? Are you in any equities and stuff?
So unfortunately, I'm not that diversified.
Yeah.
I'm actually more so property. It's only because of my previous passion. I am still very much into property now.
Yeah.
So it's just my own sort of personal preference. But that's not to say that I would convince my clients to be in property.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when we go to work, we put on our work hat and make sure that all clients have their portfolio assessed properly according to their own sort of tolerance.
Absolutely. And how about yourself? Are you tipping an extra into your super at the moment, or you're happy with your super just being your standard contributions provided by your employer?
There's been a few years that I have been salary sacrificing.
Okay, into your super?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
So that's only because I could. There are times that I have to consider my own cash flow position and what my commitments are in my own sort of personal development.
Yeah.
I might need that further cash flow.
So would you sort of reduce your super contributions in order to purchase more property? So are you looking to, you said you're considering buying a new property now, will you refinance to realise the money for a deposit, or have you got savings that you will use to do it?
I'm looking at both.
Okay.
So because I want to look at buying an investment property, but it has to be more like a house, because I just want to diversify the types of investment properties I've got in my portfolio.
Yeah.
Considering some are apartments and there's a few that's like townhouses. So I'd like to actually have that more house oriented.
Yeah. And do you think you'll find that in Sydney, or you're looking to state for your next property?
Unfortunately, it's been in New South Wales only,
Yeah.
and it's only because I like that sort of control, that I can actually go and see the property myself. And and because it's all tenanted and I'm the landlord, I like to be able to see what's going on immediately in those suburbs.
Yeah.
Rather than have to fly into, let's say, Melbourne just to see what the market's like or feel.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when you look at statistics, it may not be that particular spot that you've actually invested in.
Yeah, you need to actually understand what's happening on the ground. A lot of people sort of overlook that. And how do you go about managing your portfolio? Do you have property managers looking after it, or you do it yourself?
I used to do it myself, but it got too much. And that was at breaking point when it was just after the third property. And dealing with tenants is not a good idea, I found out, because one, it takes up a lot of your time, and two, sometimes your emotions get caught up in it because you've got emotions tied to the homes or the investment property.
Yeah. It's fortunate having that buffer, as well as managing the portfolio or the property for you in your portfolio. With a property manager, yes, they take part of the rental as a percentage of it. Percentage can fluctuate considerably depending on who you're using, but it really gives you that buffer. It makes you disconnected from the property.
Yeah, definitely.
And if you self-manage, you have someone calling up saying, "Oh, little Johnny's sick and I can't go to work and therefore I can't make the rental payments. Can you help me out?" And, most people are good people and they go, "Okay, no worries." But then it sort of starts happening over and over and over and over and over again, and you end up in a cycle where,
that's right.
It's just not performing for you, which puts stress on your ability to hold the property and how it's performing. So, right. I'm a big advocate. I've never self-managed a property. I don't think I ever will. I don't want to get a call in the middle of the night saying the toilet's blocked. Can you come over and fix it up, right?
Yeah,
that could be
right.
someone else's job.
Exactly.
As far as I'm concerned. So in 10 years' time, will this portfolio be double in size, triple in size? Have you got any sort of real growth plans on it, or is it more of a long-term retirement strategy in the background that, at a point in time when you want to retire, you'll be okay?
Yeah, I'm not looking at just aggressively growing my portfolio. Like I said, it's building a sustainable portfolio. And I think having something that I can manage in terms of rental income and basically let the property grow themselves, if they're in a well-invested area, then I think that would meet my sort of personal goals.
Yeah. And you're very heavy in Sydney, and you're in a sort of Hurstville, Riverwood. Baulkham Hills is a little bit out of that area, and then you're also in Road. So it's diversified in some of the suburbs, but you're, south sort of Sydney, you're pretty heavy there.
Yeah.
Do you have any concerns around all this noise at the moment with a softening property market? Some people are calling it a property crash. I don't know what a crash is. Whether a crash to me is like multiple tens of % of falls. But, what do you think about it all?
There's definitely been a lot of talk about, it's going to be a crash. But I think it's okay for people who just wants to hold out. If they're not wanting to sell, then it shouldn't matter if the prices slump because they're not looking at liquidating their property.
Yeah. So it only becomes an issue at a point in time when there's pressure and you need to either sell or move out. With your portfolio, because of its debt position, it has to be positively geared.
It is positively geared at the moment. Yeah.
So you're earning income from your positive property portfolio. Are you quite happy with that? It's so you got to pay tax on that, obviously.
Paying taxes is good.
It is. It means you're making money.
That's right.
I'm the first person to say that I'm happy to pay tax because it means I'm making money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Will you look to sort of, with a new property, try and reset that a little bit and neutralise the portfolio in some way, or your goal is to have a positive cash flow property portfolio moving forward?
I think it's nice to have a positive cash flow for my own situation, just so it can act like a buffer and then be redirected into another investment purchase, for example, because it will provide extra servicing for that property. I think right now I'm looking at building up my cash flow. That's the most important, considering that my net position is okay at the moment.
And do you think your earning potential will continue to grow, which will support you continue to invest in property? I don't know how you're remunerated, but I imagine there's a lot of growth for people that work and do very well in the delivery of sort of financial advice. Is that a career pathway you're going to keep at and keep growing, or do you want to one day be a full-time property investor?
I like the idea of that. Yeah. I also like my job as well.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens later down the track, because it'll be nice to have like a portfolio that can financially enable you to take other career options, for example.
That's cool. Katy, it's a really good story. I appreciate you coming in and sharing it with us. It's an impressive portfolio you've built, and it's over a decade. But for someone so young and starting so young, I think there's a lot to be said about what you've done. A lot of people that I speak to get to their 40s and 50s and start thinking, oh, hang on a second, I've got to think about long-term wealth creation for retirement. It means they've only got maybe 15 or 20 years to do that, whereas you kickstart at 18. Even if you kickstart at 20, you retire at 70. You've got 50 years of income earning cash flow to allow you to invest in property and potentially, I don't know if you want to work to 70 or not, but, there's a lot of market cycles there. And, the earlier you can start investing, the better off you'll be. Obviously, that comes with some compromise as well. You might not be sort of travelling through Europe in your 20s as a backpacker, but I think everyone wants everything these days. They want to be a property investor at 18, but they also want all the best stuff and be a global traveller as well. So I imagine you had to compromise a little bit during those early phases to realise your dream of property investment. Were you living off sort of $50 a week or something other for your food? Or you're eating? You said your parents are restaurateurs, so you're probably getting free food, were you?
Yeah, so that was sorted for like lunch and dinner. But nowadays, I'm still also with that sort of mindset. I'm conscious of how much I'm spending. Do I really need to spend that? Even going shopping, do I really need that dress? So
you have a pretty tight budget that you work towards sometimes? Depends.
Yeah, I just don't like to overspend, or I
Waste
can't speak for
money.
all women out there, but I'm just saying, I tend to like to stick to my own sort of budget and just question whether I really need that or not. So the same sort of mindset goes for property as well. do I really need this property in my portfolio, or am I just doing it for the sake of expanding a portfolio, but at the end doesn't meet my goal of being sustainable income or not?
I think that's a very responsible way to approach property investing. And a lot of people who invest in property don't have budgets. And, the first thing you should do if you want to invest in property, set yourself a pretty tight budget and actually question all your purchases, because every dollar you spend over here on a commodity, it's less money that you've got to channel into potentially a new deposit for an investment property, or it will hamper or impact your ability to secure financing, because a lender's going to look at your spending habits and behaviours, and it might limit what you can borrow. So there's a lot of moving parts there. But thanks, Katy. I really enjoyed the time.
Thanks so much for having me, Phil.
Keep at it, and let's get you back in a year or so and see how you're going and what's new on the radar. Remember to check out smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. If you have any questions for Katy or myself around the show in general, you can email the team editor at smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. If you like social media and that's how you get your info, track us down. Just search Smart Property HQ. If you like to get stuff for your email, you can subscribe to our morning bulletin, smartpropertyinvestment.com.au/subscribe. We'll be back again next time. Until then, bye-bye.
The information featured in this podcast is general in nature and does not take into consideration your financial situation or individual needs and should not be relied upon. Before making any investment, insurance, tax, property, or financial planning decision, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise whether your decision is appropriate for you. Guests appearing on this podcast may have a commercial relationship with the companies mentioned.